Hey guys, just got done watching 1998's The Curse of the Puppet Master. Well, it's called Curse of the Puppet Master. Right, where is it? There it is, right there. Oh, that's quite good. Right there in this pack. Just got done watching it, and I have to say, I don't like it. It's alright, but it's not. The continue errors all over the place, bad editing, not bad performances, and a lot of archive footage. That's what sums up this movie, basically. But from what I read up, Charles Band and Full Moon Productions have just lost kind of Paramount's deal, working with Paramount, and they kind of went their own business. So that kind of shows in this movie quite a bit. But anyway, so the film's directed by David Ducote, or Ducote, but in the film, for some reason, it says directed as Victoria Sloan. So if anybody can explain why directors do that, I'd appreciate knowing. Thank you. So, the film stars George Peck, Emily Harrison, Josh Green, Michael Guerin, Michael Sullenberger, Mark Neuberger, Scott Boyer, Jason Dean Booher, and Robert Donovan. So basically at the beginning of the film, Dr. McGrew, the puppet master, the new puppet master, he basically has this cage thing and he takes what I thought was the puppets into this hole and sets them on fire. I thought it was the puppets. So then basically it shows him and his daughter's recently got home and she's worried because his last assistant's gone missing. So she's a little bit concerned. And basically, they drive up to the station, and that's where you meet Tank, played by Robert Tank Winsley, but I'm gonna call him Tank. And basically, he's getting bullied by these bullies, and I'm like, oh, here we go, and they push him on the floor and everything. And Jane and Dr. McGrew, they both stick up for him. Especially when the bully starts attacking his daughter, Dr. McGrew's like this. Oh, you want to fight, do you? You want to fight? Come on in, come on in. Oh, yeah, I want some action, you know. But then Dr. McGrew, as the bad guys go off, Dr. McGrew sees a wood carving on the floor that Robert Tank Winsley had done. And offers him a job because for some reason he's getting $30 a week at that station. $30 a week in 1998. He got bad wages. So he ends up working for thinking the job is he's got to carve a puppet. So they take him back to their place and obviously he does a puppet show, Dr. McGrew. So they decide to introduce him to Pinhead, Blade, Leech Woman, Jester, and what's the other one? Tunneler. And they're moving without strings. But for some reason, Robert Tank, he just accepts it. It's like, oh, that's okay then. Wow. Doesn't seem that phased by it at all. When you're like, they're moving on their own, and basically they're moving towards you, touching you, and all this stuff, and you're not freaked out by it. He says something about no strings, but he doesn't go, oh, no, evil, because that's what I'd be like. I'd be like, you know, because it's horrifying, it's scary. So that's when you got one with a blade going. And he gets introduced to each one separately, and they pull out Pinhead and let him hug Pinhead, and Pinhead's like, ooh. But when they do it, they show archive footage of like Pinhead in that movie. You know, let's put it without archive footage, but a lot of it is archive footage, and I'll tell you in a minute. They have a dinner scene, and they're sitting there, and the puppets are moving about, and there's a shot of Leech Woman from part 2. There's a shot of Blade going up on the thing from part 1. And there's like other ones moving, and you're just like, why did they use this archive footage? Because the puppets have changed, because they're not doing the animation anymore, because the guy who did do the animation was ill with cancer at the time, from what I heard and what I've read. I could be wrong, but that's what I read. So basically, they want to go cheap. Fair enough. So at the dinner, basically says he needs Robert. Dr. McGrew says, Robert, I need you to sculpt a beautiful puppet. So he shows him this perfect wood and lets him do it. Well, obviously, Robert starts having nightmares about how he's a puppet. Like, he wakes in his nightmare, he has one nightmare where his legs are puppet legs cut in half. Which I thought was quite effective, really. And then he has this thing where he talks, there's a scene where Jane goes up to him when he's carving and she tells him that he's never said her name instead of Miss. So he says, Jane, and she touches his face and they start kissing, right? And then they have sex and she's getting up and he moves the cover and his body here, his chest, is the workings of a puppet working inside. So he starts shouting, she starts shouting, and then he wakes up, which makes you think, did he really sleep with her and kiss her, or was it a dream? Then when he's outside, she goes, I enjoyed the way you kissed me the other night. And you're like, so did he just kiss her, or did he sleep with her? So he runs off to get back to his work because he's very nervous. He's a very nervous person, very meek. And so she says to him, I want to show you something, Robert. And she takes him out, and the bullies get hold of him. And then the bully, I can't remember the guy's name. He says, I'll tell you what he says. He says, Tank, do you want me and Jane to teach you sex education? And you're like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. So basically, Robert grabs hold of him, stands up against the car and all that stuff. And then all this other stuff happens. And he ends up breaking into their home, this bully, and she goes, leave me alone, get lost. So he runs, he hits Pinhead. Pinhead's damaged and hurt. Then Pinhead gets put back together again, and Blade and Tunneler go after the bully, because he's like this, oh yeah. And Blade cuts him in the face, and Tunneler gets him right in the balls. Right in the balls. Not bad. Not a bad kill, right in the balls. So then basically in the last 30 minutes you get 2 police officers getting killed by the puppets, and then it turns out that Dr. McGrew's evil plan was to turn Robert into a puppet, a living, breathing puppet, because he's never been able to master it properly. So he finally gets him into a tank with like a video screen with Robert's face on it, and it looks terrible because you sit there going, all the other puppets are puppets. This looks like just a tank with a video screen on with his face going, and you're like, is this the puppet he built? Because it looks terrible. So then basically the puppets decide they're going to turn on Dr. McGrew because for some reason he's really made him angry, and they slice him up and drill into him. And you're like, I don't know where this come from. Was this because they killed an innocent in Robert? You know, because even though he's a puppet, technically, you know. And then his daughter comes home, Jane, and she sees her dad on the floor, and he goes, I did it, Jane. I did it. And she goes, Robert, no! And basically you get this really bad kind of ray shot at Dr. McGrew, and then that's the ending. Actually, I don't think you get that. I think she just goes no, and then it turns off, and that's the end, and the credits. And you're like, what an appalling film. Oh, but before that, I forgot to put this one thing. Somehow Jane ends up going out to where he burnt the cage with the like a pup in it, and it was the old assistant with heart. He looked like, I tell you, he looked like Two-Face from Batman, with Bern like, help me, and he could talk. And she just runs off and leaves him. She doesn't go, I'll help you. She runs off and leaves him there. He's like, oh, as a puppet. And I'm like, oh my word. So if he was so worried about making a living, breathing kind of puppet, that other guy was. But he killed him. So what was that about? Well, he didn't kill him. He seriously burnt and hurt him. But ridiculous. So anyway, let's go through the cast. George Peck as Dr. McGrew was very creepy and quite, I don't know, there was something just creepy about him through the whole film. You kind of knew his intentions were coming, they weren't sincere, but you kind of liked him, if you know what I mean. Jane McGrew, to me, she was just there to be the love interest of Robert. As well as the love story didn't really have to happen. It just seemed kind of false. Like, 1 minute he's going, hello, missus, and then the next minute he's in bed with her. And it's like, the love story didn't have time to grow. With the movie at only 76 minutes, it was a bit... Robert Winsley, the guy who played Robert Winsley, Josh Green, he was quite, I can't put it, he was great as the character, but at the same time, the character seemed a bit bland. I wouldn't have fallen in love with him if I was a woman. But then she falls in love with his hands, because he can do anything with his hands. Yeah, because he's got magic hands. So, that's probably the reason. Maybe he's got magic hands when it comes to the good old-fashioned way of pleasing women. Who knows? Michael Gore as Joey Carp. I'm guessing that's the bully. So I can't remember. To be honest, I never really cared about his name. So, the police officers in the movie were a bit ridiculous. They kept going up to Dr. McGrew and going, oh, where's your assistant? And all this. And asking him, and to be honest, they just were useless through the whole film. The puppets were great, but they weren't the same. They just didn't have that feeling in them anymore. Like I said before, a lot of the screenshots and videos were archive footage. And you could tell, like, the intro has the puppets, and it shows, during the intro, it shows all these archive footage moments from all these other films. And you just sit there going, bit tacky, you know? So... at the end, you get to see them moving about and everything, but it feels like they're being pushed. Instead of the animation of them walking and stuff, like were in the other movies, they're kind of like pushed and controlled. Like the bit where Blade is slicing Dr. McGrew, it's just like constantly going like this, boom, 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 same thing over and over again. So it's a bit boring. The movie was only 76 minutes long, so it didn't really have anywhere to go. Another problem with the movie was there is no word or no explanation of how Dr. McGrew got hold of the puppets. Like, did he get the puppets from Rick Myers? Did he get them from Andre Toulon? What happened? Did he get them from someone else who had them before? You know, it's like, what happened? I need to know what happened. Then you've got Leech Woman there, and she died in the second one. So, is this one before number 2? Because if it is, it's so mixed up. Like, that one's over there, and this one's over there, and that one's there. And if in that case, the others shouldn't have had numbers on them, because it's like, So you sit there going, But it was great to see Leech One, even though she didn't actually do hardly anything in the movie. That was disappointing. Jester, was always, is just there doing nothing either, other than doing the odd face every now and again. It's always Tunneler, Pinhead and Blade who do all the work. And as much as I like them, I want to see other ones. Oh, and Torch wasn't in it either. But I said he wouldn't be. Sadly, he wasn't in it. So that kind of depressed me a bit, because I love Torch. But I'm hoping Tank's not in any other movies, because Tank's just horrible. It's just dreadful. It's like really cheap. It was like Lawnmower Man stuck in a toy tank. Coming for you, you know. No, didn't like that. I'm trying to think, what else didn't I like? I just don't like the continuity price. There was no Andre Toulon. There was nothing. I know he's dead, but he was in the Decapitron. You know, there was nothing indicating how we got the puppets. And there's still no talk on Camille, the woman who went off with him in the second one as the puppet, as the human puppet. Why didn't they bring that story? Because then that would be a continuation of number 2. So it's a bit annoying because it's like follow your own series. Because what it's starting to be like the Hellraiser universe, where the puppets are in the movie, but nothing else has to do with it other than them moving them. It's like they're the box, and they come to life through him giving the injection thing. But it's like they're the box in the movie, and then Pinhead and all them turn up. It's like that. At a minute, you see a lot of the puppets, but at the same time, it's not a Puppet Master film because it doesn't have the same feeling to it. Continuity, that's what we want. We want to know how you got hold of them, how you found out the secret. How did he find out the secret? That's the thing. You don't get that, and that's what takes me the most about these movies. Because you're like, Talon had them, then Rick Myers had them, and Neil Gallagher had them, and you're like, yeah, Dr. McGrew's had them. And you're like, it's not the best kept secret. Another thing that irritated me was Dr. McGrew just tells Robert Winsley, like, oh yeah, this is how we keep him alive, and this is what happens. And you're like, but what if he went off and told the police? What if he stole them? Oh, and they let him move in with them as well. And you're like, it could be a rapist. It could be whatever. What the hell? Story. So, anyway, Curse of Puppet Master. Yeah, right there. There it is. My rating for it. Well, it's not a bad film. It's just got continuity errors and it's got a terrible puppet in Tank. And I felt really bad for him because he was just terrible. It was dreadful. But would I recommend Curse of Puppet Master? If you've seen the others, I say watch it because, let's be honest, you want to watch it for the puppets. Even though they don't do much in the movie, it's worth watching it because, you know, it is a part of the franchise, but it's a standalone one. It's the standalone movie, which means technically it has nothing to do with the other movies that much. Which is bad when you've had 5 or 6 ones that were. So anyway, I recommend giving it a go. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not Hellraiser Bloodlines. Oh, I love this in that movie. It's better than you. It's better than I said. Really, it's not fantastic. It's not a bad movie. It's just not very good. There's some real good dark, gloomy elements to it, and you can tell it's a really cheap movie. And it works to a degree, but there's all these other bits that kind of ruin it for you, especially if you're a fan of the series. If you watch it as somebody who's never watched any other movie before, you'll probably enjoy it because you won't notice the things like I noticed from watching them in the last few days. But yeah, give Curse of Puppet Master a go. It's not the best in the movie. It's not as good as the others. But, you know, give it a go. I'll give it a 2.0 because even though it's not that great, it's easily watchable. And the plot's very basic, really, so anyone can watch it. Anyone can watch it going in. It's not a bad film, just not very good. So, yeah, 2.0, 2 out of 5. Let me know what you think of the movie. If you've seen it before, let me know. And as always, guys, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.